Hi, welcome to this Accounts Receivable Bootcamp for Accounts Receivable staff working with SAP. Do you need to be productive in your new job or role? No time for a full course? This course is designed to get you and your team up and running in as little as 60 minutes. This course will be broken down into 11 video lessons and includes live SAP demos and a quick reference guide. So in 60 minutes, what will you learn? You'll learn how to enter and review different types of accounts receivable invoices in SAP, how to enter manual cash receipts, how to process electronic bank files. In this course, we'll specifically cover the US Lockbox format in SAP. And then you'll learn basic reporting, how to review and audit invoices that have been posted. Let's look at some more details. So as an overview, what specific scenarios will you cover? So the first one will be how to enter non-sales order invoices, how to display them, change and cancel and reverse these invoices. These will be manual invoices with no relationship to an original sales order. We will then learn how to take sales orders and produce billing for them, which will produce an accounts receivable invoice, display those documents, and again change, cancel and reverse if needed. We'll then take you through, after entering the invoices, how to manually post some cash and how to clear open items for invoices, list, posting, and clearing accounts, all for accounts receivable. Then in terms of electronic processing, we're going to use the US Lockbox format, which is the check format in the US, show you how to import a file, post and clear open items, and then take you through, on the reporting side, account balance and line item display, and then we will also look at accounts receivable age analysis. So those are some more specific scenarios you'll cover during this bootcamp. Just as an overview note for this course, the bank file processing, we will show basic scenarios here only in this course, and we will specifically cover the US Lockbox file processing as an overview. The reason for this is that electronic files and the instructions with your bank will vary from country to country, different payment methods, and different technology available in your company and with your banking partner. So in this course, we'll illustrate the concepts as an overview for the bootcamp, but you will need to then investigate your own company's policies and procedures. For instance, if you have a specific electronic bank statement for a different country, you will need to then find out what those details are specifically internally, but the principles in this course will still apply. So with that, let's get on with the course. Right, so for this first lesson, we're going to cover entering a manual invoice, or what I'm calling a non-sales order AR invoice. So the transaction code here is FB70, and this is to create these invoices standalone, no reference to any logistics or sales order document. So the scenario here is you've got a manual invoice to enter for domestic product revenue, no link to sales order. That's the main clue here. So for the master data, we're going to use this same customer, which is just a domestic US customer for the name, company code 1710, a US company. The document type will default to DR, which is the standard SAP for a manual custom invoice. We're going to use this 4 series revenue domestic product GL account for the P&L side for the revenue. The tax code we're going to pick is tax exempt, and tax jurisdiction code, just a dummy one here for California, and with a profit center for product A. So let's jump into the demo. So for the FB70 transaction, it's going to be found under accounts receivable. It's under the accounting module side. If we go to financial accounting, you'll find accounts receivable in there, and that's the menu we're going to be working with. And then under document entry, you'll see the FB70 invoice entry transaction. So that's where we're going to head. So when you open up this transaction code, it defaults to customer because it's an invoice, and you do have an option to go invoice or credit memo, but we're going to stick on invoice. And here we're going to enter our customer number and enter the invoice date. And this invoice date ultimately also drives the baseline date for payment terms. But remember, the invoice date is different to the posting date. So just to make sure that was clear, and here's your document type, the customer invoice, or that DR. And here we'll enter the reference number from the customer. We'll put in some manual text here, but this would normally be a specific reference number to the invoice. And once the dates are good, we can check our currency. We've got US dollar in this case. Here we've got our tax code, which is our tax exempt. And generally, when the header information is complete, I like to click this calculate tax button to see everything is looking okay, and company code 1710. Okay, so once we've clicked that button, the customer details come up, so we can validate we've got the right customer, we've got the right bank details, so we're good to go before entering more details about the invoice. So here we'll go ahead and enter the amount for the customer invoice, and here we can enter some manual text just to record the invoice. This is essentially all the header information for that customer account, the 171 series account. So for the GL account, we need a P&L account. We'll use this P&L account revenue, and let's enter just a balancing amount to balance that entry. And once we've entered that, put in our tax code and the tax jurisdiction code. And what will happen is once we've entered that jurisdiction code and we press enter, you'll see the system is going to say that we need an assignment to a CO object. Because this is revenue, there's no cost center involved. But what we will need to do is this is a P&L account. It does need an account assignment object. So the easiest way is just to really double click on this line item. You can scroll around here to find the profit center, which is what we're looking for. But in this case, just double click and we can enter profit center or profitability segment, which is the normal account assignment for revenue. So when we're in here, we're going to click on this profitability segment button. And in this case here, this gives us quick access to be able to enter a profit center, which is a real account assignment object for revenue. So we're going to scroll down here, find profit center and put in a profit center number. And what I want to really show you is although we've only entered profit center and we click continue over here, the system is deriving additional COPA data. You'll see this little green check mark here means that the profitability segment has been derived. And if we scroll down now, you'll see that not only do we have our profit center product A, but if we scroll up here, you'll see that we've also got the corresponding segment and functional area derived from SAP, and these you get for free as part of the derivation from your configuration. Okay, so now we've got the account assignment and we can go back. We've now got a balanced entry. We've got green, so our balance is 0, which is great. So debits equal credits. And we can simulate this posting. But another thing to just point out is the payment tab here. This is the baseline date that the payment terms are calculated on. So the payment terms here were 0004. And you'll see that payment term specifically refers to that the baseline data is the end of the month. So this is why you'll see that the baseline date at 7/31 is the end of the month, which is not the same as the invoice date, which we had mid-month over here on 7/16. You'll just see that difference there. So the baseline date is dependent on the payment terms, and that's something that you might need to change on individual invoices. So let's simulate that posting. As an overview, we've got a DR customer invoice, company code 1710. We've got our customer AR, we've got our credit to revenue, our profit centers in there, so we're good to go. So now we can simply post that, and then SAP will come back with a document. Document number has been posted to the company code, so that's it. You've just created your first manual invoice, and now we can just go back to the main menu, and that's the end. So pretty straightforward on that one. So that's the end of the first lesson. So for this lesson, we're going to look at that same AR manual invoice, and this time we're going to look at display and change transactions. So the business scenario here is that you may want to change the text that's in an invoice for reference purposes, or you might have to change the payment terms of a manual invoice if they were incorrect, are some examples. So what we're going to do here is we're going to post a fresh posting at the start of the lesson and work with that document for display and change. So let's jump into that. So under accounts receivable, we're going to, the display and change transactions under the document menu here, you'll see the display and change FB03 and FB02. But we're first going to enter a new document here, the FB70, so we have a fresh document to work with for our display and change. So entering the invoice again, remember using FB70, this is a manual invoice. We need to enter our customer number, our invoice date, some reference information, enter the amount of the invoice, and we're going to enter that in US dollars. And I like to use this calculate tax button as mentioned before, because you can view the customer name and address and bank account details before actually entering the amounts and the rest of the invoice data. So we're just going to carry on and enter the text for this invoice. And now we've got the amount in the top for the header. Let's do line items. So here we enter our revenue P&L account, which is a credit for revenue. Enter balancing amount, a dummy tax jurisdiction code. And We are using our tax code 00, and when we press enter, it says we need assignment to a CO object. As this is a P&L account, we do need to get a CO assignment. Double clicking on the line item and the profitability segment button is the easiest way. We're just going to scroll down here and put in a profit center. Again, this is just a repeat of the first lesson, create manual invoice, so we have a fresh document for display and change. So now that we've entered that document, we can just go back and then we can save and post this document. Balanced entry is green, so we can go ahead and post this document. And we'll get a document number at the bottom. Document has been saved. So the quickest way to do this is now to just click on document and then click on change or display. So let's quickly go to display first. So this is now the FB03. When we display a document, we can see here we have our customer and our revenue line item with the amounts. And if we look at the document header here, then we can easily see the document type used, which was a DR customer invoice. We can see the user ID, the date it was entered, so good audit information here, and it was an FB70 manual invoice, and the date and time. So document header is a good way to audit the information on the document. And now if we double click on the customer line item side, you can see all these fields are grayed out. They cannot be changed. But if you click in change mode over here, this is a shortcut to FB02. You'll notice the amount and tax and the document header is still gray, but you can change things like the payment terms or text. So here's an example, and those fields are in white. We're just going to update the text here. So this is an example of what you could change. I'm just going to put there product A. And one thing you can find useful to change are the payment terms if you need to. So here we had the payment terms, which were baseline date, end of month. So we changed that, for instance, to one with some cash discount with the mid-month, and we choose that payment term. You'll see that the baseline date automatically updates, and now we have the discount percentage and days in there. And then it says your terms of payments have changed. It's a warning. You need to enter through that because you're confirming that you're changing something in the document, and then you can simply save. So this is an example of the types of things you can change, and it says your changes have been saved on an invoice. And then you can go back to the main menu. So remember that although we jumped from the creation screen, the display and change transactions can be used individually, but it's easier to get there just directly from the document display. Okay, so that's invoice display and change. So the last step or action you would want to take is to reverse a document potentially. So FB08 is to reverse an AR invoice. And the scenario is here, the invoice is posted in error or there was a mistake and you want to reverse it. We're going to use the document that was posted in the previous lesson. And remember, SAP won't actually delete the invoice to preserve the audit trail. A new contra document is posted and it nets out the original. It doesn't actually delete it. So for reversal, again, you go to the document screen here, and under here you'll notice there's a reverse folder, and we have an option here called FB08 individual reversal. So double click on that, enter your document number that we just created in the previous lesson, and company code and fiscal year, and here you enter a reversal reason. And here we just have some dummy reasons. We just put here wrong document posted, which is fine. And once you've got the document, you can simply post it, or you can click display before reversal to make sure you've got the right document. So by clicking display, we can see here we have the document, we have a credit to revenue. We don't like that, we can come back out and simply click post. When we click post reversal, a new document number is posted. You'll see it's got a different number range in the 16 series. And if we now jump back, and we then go and click display, and here we actually display that document, you'll see that I'm just going to enter the fiscal year here and click enter. This is the actual document that got reversed, and here you can see you've got the contra entry for this document. And what you'll notice here is when you have an entry, if you click on this reverse document button, it'll automatically jump you to the linked document, and then you can see the link between the documents. So here we have the credit to revenue, click the reverse document, and here is the debit to revenue or the contra. So the system does neatly hook the two documents together, and if you click on the document header, you'll also see that the reversal document is also noted in the header and with a different document number there. So here you can easily see the document number and who it was reversed by. So there's a good clear audit trail when you reverse a document. So it's a pretty simple process to do a reversal. And now we can just go back to the main menu, and that concludes that lesson. Right, so in this lesson, we're going to just look at a sales order and how a sales order relates to an invoice to get some orientation of these logistics documents, so that when you do create invoices related to sales orders, that you have an idea where the data is coming from and how the accounting decisions are being made. So the transaction code is VA03, display sales order. And we're just going to look at an existing sales order and navigate around some of the accounting and invoice relevant fields on the sales order and in the document flow to give you some perspective. So here's some of the metadata associated, but let's jump into the detail. So what we're going to do now is to display a sales order. So we need to go into the logistics menu, not accounting, and then go to sales and distribution. And over here, this is where we'll then find sales, and we'll find our order menu, and this is where you can then display the sales order or VA03. So once we click on that, we need to enter an order number or search for an order. So here I'll use an existing order that we have in the system. And when the screen pops up, you first have got a header overview and letting us know that there are some subsequent documents, which I'll explain later. So here we've got the sold to party, we've got the customer purchase order reference number, we've got the material that's being billed, we've got the quantity of the material, and a description of the material. And here we have different sections. We've got the header detail, and we've also then here got the item details. So we're going to first explore the header details and show you some relevant fields for the header of the sales order. So in the header, we've got things like what is the sales order types. In this case, it's called OR standard order, the sales area, distribution channel, and division. These are three key fields in the sales and distribution module that can be useful for reporting. There's our document currency in US dollar. Here's who created the order. And just a lot of good information just about the general area of the sales order. If we look at the accounting view, one of the key fields here, this account assignment group, this determines the general ledger account for revenue. Here we've got domestic, foreign, and affiliate or intercompany. So in this case, this is domestic revenue. So it's quite an important field. And this is the company code that's going to get billed, 1710, when this goes through. So you can also have this concept of different header conditions. And these are sales conditions that apply to all of the items in the order. Here we don't have any item-specific conditions, but we can see the main pricing condition and tax of the order all up. And we'll see the same details on the line item. And so for the next area, I think let's jump to the status tab and just have a look at the status of the order overall. Look at the status. This order is completed. Nothing has been rejected. And if we have a look further down here, we can see that it's been fully invoiced and everything is complete on this order. So that's just sometimes a good reference point. So if we go back now, let's have a look at a line item. So remember, you can have multiple line items on the sales order. Let's pick one of them and go into the item details. So here you see more detail of the material, the quantity, etc. And we can actually go and then look at the billing document detail. And here we can see the payer. So we had a sold to party on the first screen, and now we know the payer is the same. Here we've got the Incoterms, we've got payment terms, and we can see the date at which the billing is valid for this order. And here's a tax classification as well that is useful to be able to follow up with. But mainly the payer and its details. If we click on the conditions here, this is a much more detailed pricing screen for how the price is made up. You'll see we've got a per unit and then a total price for the quantity, so 120 price per unit. And here we can see the tax was at 4% to get the value, so there's a lot more detailed information about the pricing. In fact, if you display an individual pricing record, which we'll do here, you'll see that price of 120 gets derived from a combination of the sales org, the distribution channel, and the material, leaving us 120 per hour. So this is just some background for you to click around and understand how these prices or these values are actually getting into the order from the pricing condition record. If we look at the account assignment tab, you'll see this is where our profit center is coming from, and our profitability segment here, again, is also derived in the sales order, where we'll get information like the customer, the product, the company code, the plant, sales org. All this information is derived automatically when something is posted from a logistics document. This is the main advantage over a manual invoice, is that you get a lot more rich data because of the sales document. And again, each item also has its status, whether it's complete or not, because again, if you have multiple line items, they could have different statuses. So now let's have a look at this document flow. If we have subsequent documents, if you click on the document flow, then you'll see a flow of what's happening with this order. So this order number 44 has had some preceding orders that it's been referenced or copied from. This is the one for 66 hours, and it is complete. And here we have the billing documents complete, but the invoice is still open for cash receipt. That's why it says not clear. But the main concept is there's 3 different documents here. So let's have a look at this billing document, which you haven't seen before. So this is the billing document from the sales order. And if we look at this, has also got a header, and it's also got line items, and this carries the information inherited from the order. So let's look at the item details here as an example, just so you can see that the billing quantity, other information in this order. If I scroll around here, you'll see this is the same information that you were seeing in the sales order gets copied to the billing document, and the billing document is then the invoice for the customer and is the basis for the accounting posting. So when you scroll down here, you'll see lots of rich information here. We've got the country, tax jurisdiction code, the tax classification of the material, i.e. if it's a good or a service, the region, etc., account assignment. So all of this detail gets copied from the sales order to the billing document. And same with the pricing conditions. If you look at the header as well, you'll see a lot of similar information as we saw before from the header of the sales order. And here you can see the account assignment again, and also has the posting been successful, posting status is successful. If there was an error, you would see that here as well. So just remember that there's a sales order, there's a billing document, which is what we're looking at now, and then there's the accounting ledger entry. And here we have another bit of information. Tax classification of the customer is also useful. So just to give you some data points or things to look out for. So if we click back now, we go back to the document flow, you'll then see the actual accounting document. So if we display this document, this is the actual general ledger entry. So here you'll see the actual debits and credits. So debit to the customer, credit to revenue, credit to tax based on that tax condition. So the preceding documents drive what's in the journal. So we'll just click back to that. So just remember again, we've got the order, we've got the billing document, and then the actual accounting journal entry to accounts receivable. But it's important to remember that relationship. Again, the billing document is the main driver. And if you go to the billing document as well, and there's also a thing here, you can look at how the revenue accounts were determined. You'll also see that GL account revenue is actually a combination of this customer and a customer group and account key combination. And you'll see here that the general ledger account was determined because of this sales organization, this account assignment group domestic, and this account key. So these are just useful little tips and tricks to pick up, that if you want to know how does an account get derived, this is how you can find out that information from the billing document itself. So we're just going back to the document flow now, go back to the order, click back again, and you can then go back to the main menu. So that's how to navigate your sales order and get some good orientation as to the key features that you should be looking for in a sales order. So as an overview, remember you've got a document flow where you can look at the subsequent documents. In our example, there wasn't a delivery before the billing, but remember after the order you often have deliveries, billing, invoice, and the invoice is what generates the accounting document itself. On the header tabs, these are the ones we navigated to look out for. Mainly pricing conditions are the most important ones in the status, and under the item detail, again, conditions and account assignment is important there. And in the billing document as well, tax classification of the customer and the material helps drive the detail. And remember, most of the details on the billing document are copied from the sales order and related documents. So now that you have learned to navigate a sales order and get your orientation, understanding the link between the sales order itself, the billing document, and then the final accounting document, let's have a look at how you actually create that invoice or that billing document from the sales order. The transaction code we're going to use here is VF04. This is to be able to process what's called the billing due list, or to create mass processing of billing documents. VF01 can also be used if you just want to create a single document. So the scenario here is we want to create AR invoices from sales orders that are relevant for billing, and then after that we're going to display the billing document and related accounting documents for the invoice. For the master data, although we're going to run the billing due list for multiple orders, we're just going to invoice this one order here, number 45. And this is just some master data describing the price and the quantity that we're going to be invoicing. So let's go ahead and look at that. So in the system, we will need to go to the logistics module. And here we'll go to sales and distribution. And this is where we created the sales order originally under the sales tab. This is where we did the sales order creation, but for billing, you're going to have to go to the billing folder over here, and here you will go to billing document, and here you'll see the single billing document create, or we're going to show the billing due list, the VF04, which is the most common one. So here in the billing due list, there's a selection criteria. So here we'll put in sales organization 1710. And here there are different types of billing, order related or delivery related. Ours is order related. So we're just going to display that to run the items. And here we have two orders that are relevant for billing. So we're just going to pick, you can either pick them all and just go post and post all billing in one go, mass processing, or we can just pick a single line. For this demo, we'll just pick one line, this order here, and we'll see this is a one for 18,000 here. And we're just going to click save, and then this will automatically create or post the invoice. So when the system finishes processing, it'll tell us that it's processed the documents, and there's a group in case you had multiple documents. And if we just click here, display the documents in that processing group, here we have one document, and there's our billing document here in the 9 series. So we select that document, and we then just display the document. This is branching into displaying the billing document, which you'll recognize. So there we have the 9 series billing document, and here we can see the amount, the 18,000. We can see the partner, and we can also branch the accounting documents if we need to. So let's click on accounting documents. Here we have the financial accounting document and the CO document for controlling. So let's just look at that accounting document. Remember, the accounting document is different to the actual billing document because this is the general ledger side of it. So in the general ledger, here we can see our credit to revenue and tax. And this is the actual financial posting. If we double click on a line item there, you'll see your 18,000 again. And for the details, let's go back to the overview. So remember, this is the accounting document. And if I click on the header there, you can see this was created from VF04. So that's how you know that it's an automated invoice. If we look at the CO or the controlling document, just for interest, you'll see this is where the profitability segment is stored. If I just click on the master record there, this is all of the rich metadata that's now been collected from the sales order that also comes with a transaction instead of just a profit center. And now we can just click back. This is just a way to show you how the accounting documents are related to the billing documents. So if we go all the way back now, I just want you to go and display the sales order. If we display the sales order, you'll see that once we enter our number, it will tell us that there are now subsequent documents for the sales order because it's been invoiced. So let's just get the number in there and press enter. Okay, there we go, order number 45. And here you'll see that it says consider subsequent documents. And if we look at the document flow, you'll see here we have the order, we have the billing document, and the accounting document. So if you go back to the main menu, then that's it. So that's how easy it is to create an invoice. So now that you've learned how to create an invoice, we're just going to cover again how to display and potentially change invoice, what can be changed, and also how to change the related accounting document if necessary. So the scenario is display a billing document that's linked to a sales order, navigate to the accounting posting, and change some text on the billing and the accounting document. And we're going to use the billing document posted in the previous lesson. Remember, SAP won't let you change any billing logistics information or accounting details because you need to always preserve the related trail. Okay. So if we go here to the billing document, this is where we did the billing due list or created an individual billing document, and here are the display and change transactions. So let's start with that display transaction, and here we got the billing document from the previous lesson, and we're going to enter that in and have a look at the billing document. And here you can see we're looking at the billing document itself, and that's the number that we had before, the material, the description, and that value, that 18,000. So that's just the basic display of the billing document, which you're now familiar with from the other transactions. So now what we can do is we can look at the document flow. And again, just to reiterate, we have a sales order, a billing document or invoice, and the accounting document, 3 separate documents in the system. And right now we are displaying that billing document. So if we just go back to the billing document itself, remember we've got the header details. So let's have a look at the header, and all the information here you'll see is gray. This is all that logistics information I mentioned. We can't change any of this information in order to preserve the order trail and not impact the change on the order. That's why these fields are grayed out. But if we have a look further, for instance, if we look at the header text, this is something that we could change. So right now, while we're in display mode, if I just open it up and display, this is a text billing note to the customer, you'll see that it's gray and we can't change it right now. If we simply go back one with the back arrow, and then here click this change button, you'll then see we're then going to change billing document, which is the VF02. And now if I do the same thing, if I click on the header and I click on the text, you'll see the text note is now white, and I can now update the text. So there are only very limited things you can change on a document after it's posted, and text is one of them that could be a common thing to change. And this would impact either a note or something that you need to print out. So let's just save that, and now we can see the changes have been saved in that billing document. And so now we can just simply go back into it. And if we look at the accounting documents that are related to the billing document, remember we've got that concept. Let's have a look at the actual accounting or the general ledger entry. Remember, accounting document is different to the actual billing document number. So click on the accounting document. I'm in display mode now. And this is the general ledger view where I've got my credit to my revenue. And if I double click on that, you'll see again all these fields are gray. They can't be changed to preserve the order trail. But if I click in change mode, again, certain boxes turn white, and text is one of them that you can change. So here's just an example of updating some text, but I can't change any of the amounts, and I'll just click Save. And that's just a simple change to the accounting document itself. And if we look at the document flow, remember here we've got the order, and we've got the invoice and the accounting document. So we were looking at changing the billing document, which we're just looking at now, which is separate to the accounting document, just really reiterating that concept. So if we go back now to the main screen, and just remembering, here's the accounting document that we changed. Okay, so that's an overview of the document flow. And then going back from that, we can just really now go back to the main menu. And that's basically the display and change transactions. You'll see the VF02 and VF03. We branched into them from those other menus, but you can also go into them direct. So now that we've looked at that, let's have a look at the reverse scenario. So the billing document reverse, there's a different transaction code, VF11, to reverse or cancel a billing document. The scenario is here, you have a customer invoice that requires cancellation. You need to manually cancel it in error. And remember, this is linked to a sales order billing document. This is why you need the specific transaction, and we'll use the order posted in the previous lesson. And again, noting SAP is not going to delete the existing invoice. It's going to preserve the order trail, and you're going to get a new contra document posted to net out the original, but it's still linked to the original in the document flow, and we'll see that. So let's go ahead and look at that. So for the reverse side of the transaction, or cancel, remember we created the document with VF04, VF01, we did some changes. VF11 is the cancel. So we'll click into that. Here you enter your billing document number, and you can highlight the line, and you can display it first just by clicking display to make sure you've got the right document. So here we've got our 18,000. We're confident it's the right document. We can go back and just go ahead and go back into that cancel transaction. Now we know we've got the right document. You simply select a reversal reason. So here we're going to say wrong posting. It's a dummy reason. Highlight the item, and then you simply post. So really it's as easy as that to process a cancellation. And what you'll notice is you get a new document created, and this is a new billing document. So let's go back from that. And now what I want you to do is to go to display that billing document, and here you'll see we've got a new billing document number. And if I display that billing document, we come up with the billing document display. And then what you'll notice, if I click on the on the document flow, we've now got an invoice cancellation as part of that document flow. So we've got the original invoice, a cancellation, and an accounting document for the cancellation. So let's display that cancellation accounting document, and here you'll see we've got a debit to revenue. So this is the contra for the original credit. So this is where you have that contra document, and this is a quick link to the reversal document, so you can see it's very easy in the ledger to jump between the original credit to revenue that we see here and jump back to the contra or the debit to revenue that we've just created. So if you go back again to the document flow, you'll see again that relationship where we have the invoice original, we've got the cancellation, and there's an accounting document associated with that cancellation. And so with that, we can just go back to the main menu. There we go, and it's really as easy as that to cancel or reverse a billing document. Right, now that you've learned how to post different kinds of invoices, Let's have a look at some basic reporting. In this lesson, we're going to look at the displaying a customer account balance for a single customer and drilling down to its line items. And then we're also going to look at just displaying line items directly for a single customer or multiple customers. So in this scenario, you can also look at the account balance by fiscal year, specifically analyzing debits, credits, and cumulative balances. We're also going to show how you can drill down to the original invoice line item and also do some quick filters as an example for overdue items. For the master data, we're going to use our company code 1710 and primarily focus on this domestic US customer. So let's jump into the demo. So under the accounting menu for accounts receivable, we've had a look at the under financial accounting, accounts receivable, and we focused originally on document entry, which was how do we enter. We focused on documents itself, display, change, and reverse. And now we're going to look at the account, and this is where the basic reporting is. So the main ones are display balance and display line items. There's also this line item browser that's only applicable if you've got HANA. So let's actually focus on these two specifically because they'll be the same in both. So if we start with the account balance, you enter your customer account number, your company code, and your fiscal year, and then execute. When the report comes up, you first can see by each period, periods 1 through 16, the balances, debits, credits, and the cumulative balance. And if we take a particular period, it's context sensitive on where you drill down. As an example, if you double click on debits, you will then only get the debits. So that 81,000 there, double clicking on that, this is now the breakdown, of the 83,000. So this is then the total that you get to see. And these symbols here show what is open and what is clear, the red and green. And another key field is the document type. You can see different document types here, the RV for automated invoices, we've got the due date symbols, we've got the payment terms, and various other items. Let's just carry on through now. Just notice if you double click on credits, you only get the credit total, which is very useful. And you'll see if I double click on cumulative balance, I'll actually get the total of that 121 odd thousand. So depending on where you click in the report for drill down, you get the line items associated with that particular drill down. So let's have a look at the document types again. So if you take a particular document type, this helps you identify where the transaction is coming from. So double click on this DR, which is a manual invoice. If I look at the header, you see there it says customer invoice, and here the transaction code is showing FB01. And if I kind of go back and I look at the environment, document environment, if I try to look for an original document, you'll see there's nothing preceding a regular manual invoice. But if I pick something like an RV document type, which you learned was a billing from a sales order where there's a billing document link, I just want to show you that if you drill down on one of these entries here, there's more information. So again, it looks the same. I've got my credit to revenue, debit to customer, but here if I click environment, document environment, original document is now lit up. If I click on that, you'll see I can actually drill back to the original document, which is a billing document in this case. And remember from the previous lessons have you learned, the main thing with a billing document is you've got header and line item detail. And if I look at the line item detail of the billing document, all of this other rich metadata is what you get in addition when you've got a logistics billing document related to a sales order versus just a manual invoice. So just to remind you that when you drill down, you can get back to those original details, and it depends on the document type. RVs are connected, other ones are not. You can also then use a sort and filter here as an example. So sorting by document type could be useful, or the filter. So if I filter for RV as an example, these are only automated invoices linked to billing. So it's pretty useful just to be able to do that type of analysis. So let's just take out that filter. And to give you some other ideas about what you can do, as an example, if I look at the due date symbol, if I want to analyze that, this is the payment terms due date. The lightning bolt means it's overdue. These are the payment terms. Here's the net due date and how many days in arrears as an example. So to analyze this or to help do some kind of filtering, you can then pick a specific column and then filter for that column. So as an example, I could say for due dates over here, let me take this, I'm going to filter, and let me filter by overdue items. So if I overdue by the lightning bolt symbol, which means it's overdue, and I run that, I'll easily get a filter of everything that's overdue, and then I can follow up as an accounts payable clerk with that information. So just to give you a few ideas how you can work with a customer line item report. So I'm just going to go back out to the main menu because we've been drilling down from balances to line items, and kind of just to show you can run line item report directly, this FPL5N, enter the customer number, and if I say show only open items and I run a report, you'll see I get exactly the same data I've just been looking at, except I'm just running it, having to specify, a date or open items. And that's just the same data, except you're running it directly from line items. But here you have the option to say, show me all items as an example as well. And now you've got open and cleared items, giving you the same total of 121. So the same information you drilled down to from the cumulative balance before. But also here, you can take out the customer number. As an example, just enter company code and run this report for multiple customers. This is the main benefit of this over the previous report, which starts with period balances only for a single customer. Here you can look at multiple customers at the same time and sort and filter, which is quite useful. So that's the customer account balance and line items. Reports, and really useful for some quick analysis and basic core capability that you would need to understand for accounts receivable managing open items. So that's the end of this lesson. So in the previous lesson, we covered analyzing a customer account balance and drilling down to line items as basic reports. This next report we're going to look at is how do you get an age analysis of open items. So this is the transaction code here, or the report. And this way, this report analyzes open items and can break the report down into different age buckets. So here you can have, for example, 30, 60, 90 days that things are due for cash receipts or to receive payments. You can also modify these day parameters that are there, but we have some test ones in this test system. And then you can also drill down to those line items. So when you find a total in an age bucket, for instance, 90 days overdue, you can then drill down just to see those items. And you can also drag and drop some characteristics. So the main use of this report is we tend to look at all customers together, and you can use company code 1710 and fiscal year 2018. So let's jump into this report. So under the accounts receivable menu again is where you're going to go. Now the previous two reports were under account, where we just looked at the balance and the line items. But now we're going to go to the information system menu, where there are multiple reports, but this is by far one of the most useful ones. We're going to open that up to go to customer items and pick the very first one, due date analysis for open items. This is the report. So once the report runs, again, you can leave the customer account empty and just enter the company code. Is just a useful way to use the report to see all customers, the open item due date, and click graphical output for easier results, and then execute that report. So the report comes up. You'll first see that there are a couple of different sections to the report. So we've got each customer number in the top here to show the line item totals per customer. And then at the bottom here, we've got the breakdown of what's due, what's not due, and what are open items, and the totals for these amounts. So for instance here, these are your age buckets over here. So this amount is 0 to 30 days due, and then this one is 60 to 90 as an example, what's due, and you get the not due and just total open items. And at the top here, we split this out to show everything that's due or overdue. So you can correlate the totals between the top and the bottom. So total open items are the 140, which is total over here in this due column. And if we looked at what was 0 to 30, 60 here, you can see that's the breakdown. Again, for the 60 to 90, we can see the breakdown to correlate the two. So it's a very easy way to manage the items. These are the additional characteristics that you can drag and drop. For instance, document type, if you just drag and drop with your mouse, you can break it down to the different document types. Remember, the DRs are manuals, RBs are the automated documents. You could drop country as an example. Here we've only got customers in the US, so not that useful, and then you can drag customer back. But the whole idea here is this top box, you can analyze everything that's overdue or in this first column, pretty easily. So take this here, everything that's due over 121 days, for example, and you can see it's the same bucket over here. If we click on that item and then we say go to line items, we can then get the breakdown of what makes up those $1,500 that are way overdue, over 120 days. So from the line item report, it's not as easy to see what that is, but when you drill down, you can see it much more easily. And remember, on any invoice, you can always double click. You can go to the actual accounting document, and by clicking on the header, you can see what type of document type it is. And environment, document environment, original document lets you go all the way to the billing document. And just remember, you've always got the document flow that you can click on if you need to see the relationship back to the original standard order. And here you can then even display that order if you want to. So just as a reminder that you can go all the way back, and this is the power of integrated SAP. is you can go right from the original sales order and then draw all the way back to the to your report again. So very useful just to remember what you can click through so that you've always got the details that you need on hand. So this is a really good launch pad to be able to see what is important and then analyze or drill down from there by these different age buckets. And again, you can customize these buckets in your own particular system. And remember, document type is a really good way as well to see automated documents versus manual ones. And yes, that's the main usage of this age analysis bucket report. Very good way to summarize the data in buckets before you analyze, so you can drill down more specifically. And we can just come back to the main menu. So that's the next basic report that I would really recommend for the accounts receivable starting point. Right, so now that you've learned how to display different kinds of invoices, enter different kinds of invoices and report on them, we're now going to look at processing a manual cash receipt. This transaction code is F-28, and remember this is a payment incoming from the customer, so payment or cash receipt depending on your terminology. So the scenario here is we have some incoming cash or payment, and we're going to use that to clear an open accounts receivable invoice. So in this scenario, the way you could think about this is that the actual physical cash receipt has already been processed by the bank. We are now recording the payment in SAP so we can clear that customer account for that invoice. For master data, we're going to use that same customer account we've been using so far. The document type for the payment is going to be a DZ, and we're going to use this bank account here to record our cash receipt. So let's see what that looks like in SAP. So under the accounts receivable menu, we're going to go under the account menu first, and we're going to display the line items just so we can display open items to see what we are trying to clear. So let's just display open items here first, and let's have a look at these customer items. Remember, the red traffic light means they're open, and here's an item for $124, and it's been overdue for 123 days. So let's open up another SAP session and process a payment for that invoice. So under the accounting, financial accounting, accounts receivable menu, we're going to go to document entry, and then you'll see we have a transaction here, F-28, which is incoming payments. So let's start that transaction code. And here we enter a document date first and a posting date. And here we can enter some reference information to help us identify the cash receipt that's been processed from the bank. And we can enter any reference we want. And then we can enter some text just to make it easy. This is company code 1710 and a US dollar cash receipt. In our bank account, as I said, this is the bank account on the balance sheet to represent the debit to bank or cash. And then here in the amount section, we're actually going to enter the amount that we see that was outstanding, this 124.80. So let's pretend the customer has paid in full. So in the amount, let's enter that amount, 124.80. So we know how much is going to be charged. If you had small, short payments or differences, you can use bank charges to write off small differences. In this case, we're going to assume clear payment and enter the value date, which is the same date as the posting date in this case. And again, just some identifying text to help you identify the bank account row. So this is everything around the bank. Now what you'll then see then is that for open item selection, this is where you enter the customer account. You'll see under the account type, this D here stands for customers. So what this means is that this box here is looking for a customer account number. So this is where we enter our customer account number for searching for open invoices. So now that we've got that, we can then process the open items. This is a document type DZ, click process open items, and now we can see all the customer open items for that account, similar to the line item display. Now if you have a look down our list here, we'll be able to find the invoice row for 124.80 with the document type RV, and we've entered 124.80, and now we want to assign an invoice. So to do that, you literally double click on the line or the amount to assign it. So when I double click on that 124.80, you'll see this assignment box will then increase. So here we've entered 124.80 against the bank. We've assigned 124.80. They're both balancing, and now we can simply post that entry. So we're going to go ahead here and post that, and that will then clear this invoice. You'll see it comes back with a document number. We can quickly display that document number by just clicking Document Display. And then here you'll see the journal where we've got our document number. You'll see if we look in the header, we've got a DZ for customer payment. And this is just our student ID here. And here we can see the debit to bank, and we can see the credit to the customer account to clear off the customer account for our 124.80. So that's it. So we've now cleared the document, and there's a clearing document to link them together. So what you'll see now is if I back out of that, and if I now go to my line item report where this 124.80 is, if I refresh this report, if I say list refresh, you'll then now see that that 124.80 item has now disappeared from the list because it's now a cleared item. It's no longer a red open item. If I go back and I run that report once more and I say show me all items and I execute, you'll then see that if I scroll down here under the cleared items or the green rows, I've now got my DZ document type and my RB invoice, and these two are matching because I've now cleared this document with that incoming payment. So that's the simple process of entering a manual payment and matching it with an invoice, and therefore it becomes a cleared item, so you no longer have to manage those two rows anymore. So that's really the concept of open item management. And so just to confirm, if I go back to open items and I run that again, this list is now clear of those two items, and that's the whole concept behind open item management. Now we can just go back to the main menu, and just remember that was the F-28 incoming payments, and that's the end of this lesson. So in the previous lesson, you learned how to post some cash or an incoming payment and then match that to clear an open item or invoice. The difference with this transaction, this is what you can use to match two existing open items that just need to be cleared, and this transaction code is F-32. So the scenario here is we've got two customer open items. No payment is required, but we want to keep the customer open item statement easy to manage by not listing entries that no longer need to be followed up on. So in this scenario, we have an AR invoice that was processed, but after a dispute, a credit memo was raised for the customer. So no payment or journal entries needed, but a clearing document is used to match the original invoice and the credit memo to clear the open items. So here again, we're going to use our same customer number and company code 1710. So let's see what that looks like. So in SAP itself, under Accounts Receivable, under the Account menu, there's the F-32 Clear Transaction. So if you go into that, in the very top field here, this is where you enter the customer number to be able to process open items. So that's the customer number for company code 1710. But let's have a look at the line items to see what we're trying to match here. So if I look at open items for this customer right now, so I've got open items and I run this, this is where you can see here, I'm going to highlight here, we have a credit memo here for 250 and we have an invoice for 250. So this is the original invoice, which was our product test invoice with a DR document type, and here we have a DG or credit memo. So these are the two documents I'm talking about that no payment is needed, but these two can be matched to clear off because the customer doesn't owe us any money because we gave him a credit. But these are currently still open items because they're in red. So we go back to the open item clear transaction now and we click process open items. We get the same line items we just saw, and here you'll see we can find the two documents. So here's the DG or the credit memo, the 250. So there's nothing assigned or entered. So let's double click on that 250 and you'll see that 250 has been assigned. Now let's scroll, we'll find the DR invoice, the matching one. Double click on that and you'll see although it shows 00 here, we haven't entered any numbers, but we've matched those two invoices. Now we simply post and we get a document that's posted. But what you'll see here is if we go and display that document, there's no new entry. We're really just matching these two. So here we've got two customer line items. The 250s are matching off, and there's a clearing document. So let's go back and now have a look at the open item report. So we go list refresh, just a quick way to refresh the report. We will then see those two items will then disappear because now they are cleared. They are no longer open items to be managed. So that's just the purpose of that transaction, so you can keep this list to only things that you need to chase up on. So we can just go back to the main menu and confirm that's the F-32 clear transaction. Again, going back to the open item concept, that the idea is that you only keep items open on the customer account that you need to follow up on. Once a customer has paid or there's a credit memo or it's a write-off, then they get matched and cleared, so you no longer have to chase those items. So it's a very simple transaction. So that's the end of that lesson. Right, so this lesson is going to seem a little more complex, but what we're trying to show here is how you would import an electronic bank statement or a file from the bank to automatically match your payments that customers have made to the bank with your customer open invoices. So this is an automated process that your company is most likely using versus the previous process we just showed where you manually post cash and match it. So in this example, though, we're going to specifically look at the Lockbox method, which is the US check electronic file from a bank. So although these transactions are specific to the US and you would use them for the lockbox, there will be similar procedures with slightly different transactions for other bank statement files in other countries. But remember, your own company will have its own specific method and process and different communications with a bank. So rather think of this lesson as the principles that are being applied rather than the exact steps that you would follow. So in this scenario, we're going to import a Lockbox file for checks received at a bank, and we're going to display the imported data and then show the Lockbox journal entries. So in this case, our Lockbox number is 222, and we have a different destination and origin, which links the Lockbox to our company, and we're going to be using this bank account to represent the Lockbox that's receiving the cash. So remember, this is just going to be a sample as we go through. Now, in terms of just summarizing that process, whether this is a regular bank statement or specifically Lockbox, in this Lockbox example, what's happening is that customers are making payments to your bank. The bank itself is then compiling a data file that they can then submit to your company. And the main format being used today is this BAI2 file format. And there used to be a BAI1, but BAI2, the main difference is this carries separate line item detail to enable a higher automated matching rate and partial payments also to be applied. So from an SAP perspective, we then are going to import that file from the bank into SAP. And this is really its cash and remittance advices. SAP then applies an automated matching algorithm to match the payments to open invoices in SAP. So it can use different things like document numbers, invoice reference numbers, amounts, etc., and automatically match where possible. When an automated match happens, the payment advice and the amounts are also automatically posted. If something isn't able to post, then there's a procedure here to actually do post-processing and to do the matching yourself or to help with that matching. So during this post-processing phase, when you originally import this file, if everything matches, they will be applied to the incoming payments from the file will be applied automatically to the invoices, and you don't have to do anything. They'll be posted, matched, and cleared. If something only partially matches, something could be partially applied. If something can identify the customer account number, but not any other information on the invoice, it's then called on account processing. And if something just can't be matched at all, it can't be applied, it'll really just sit unapplied or unprocessed. Now in the test system here, because I don't have a real file from a bank to match to real invoices, what's going to happen is we are not going to get any automated matching. Nothing will be applied or partially applied automatically. So we will make more use of this post-processing phase to show how to handle items that don't match automatically. Because remember, in your own company scenario, most items you're expecting to match automatically, and you only need this process for items that don't match automatically. So let's walk through that. So in terms of importing the Lockbox file under financial accounting, under accounts receivable menus where we did the other transactions, but here we're going to go to the banks menu and we're going to go to the input because we're receiving money in, not output. And we have a specific Lockbox file area here, and this is the import, post, and post-process. But in the import step, you can also post. So I've saved a variant here for my test. Then here I've just got a test file that's actually on my PC that I'm going to upload into the bank storage file in SAP, and this is the name of that file. This would normally be automated in your company, but this is just a test process to show how it works. There's the BAI2 format. These are different algorithm matching items you can choose. And then essentially when you've got the file there, you can just say execute and it'll actually import the file. Now in our system here, we're getting a message saying that this file already exists because I've already done the import. So it's showing you that there's nothing to process because it already exists in storage. So because this is a test system, it's harder to simulate a file, but I'm going to then just show you on the next screen what this output would look like from that file. So when that file is processed, you get a log. And on the import log, you'll see here in this example, there's a bunch of check numbers that have been posted. This is the account number that they're going to. In our example, this is not the right customer number, so but in the test file, we would correct that. These are the amounts that are posted, which are the amounts we're working with, and these are the various document numbers that the system has posted to record these payments coming in. And in the log here, you'll see, as I mentioned before, if there were amounts that were automatically applied or partially applied, they would appear in this box. In this example here, they're showing that $20,000 was posted on account. In other words, it found the account number, but it wasn't able to actually match versus anything that was just unprocessed. So your import procedure may be different, or it could be automated depending on your bank and IT infrastructure, but the principles will still be the same. So let's go ahead and look at this. So once we've imported and posted whatever we can, I'm going to now look at this post-processing phase. Now in this phase here, all you really need to do is use this transaction code and enter the lockbox number. And here you will see that these are the amounts that were then imported from the lockbox and posted, because the posting happened in the first initial step as well. And you'll see here I've got the amounts, and I've got a document number, and I've got a payment advice for these different amounts. And if I click down here, I can see the different amounts that have been posted, but they're currently red because they haven't been matched to any account at all. And so what we're now going to do in order to post, there's this other display button which just helps you see the amounts are also broken down into various different check numbers, so you can actually navigate quite a lot of detail. Currently these are unprocessed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that these land on our customer account, because right now you'll see that these documents are sitting in the lockbox, but they are unapplied to any AR account. So right now the system doesn't even know which customer these belong to. So I've done that association in the background to see how that works. And these are payments, so just think now they're sitting in the bank account, but they are unapplied in AR so far. That's the scenario we're in. But what you can then simply do with this transaction is we can go up to this top menu here and actually go in and actually just click the post checks to apply this transaction. So let's have a look and see what that looks like. So to post those lockbox entries, I could use the post transaction, or I can just go straight to this lockbox again. So let's go to the lockbox and run that lockbox transaction again. As we just showed, these are the items that weren't matching. And now to process this file to post, I can just click here on checks, and I can click this post function here. And the system is then now going to do some matching, and now you'll see the icons have changed blue, and we've actually had some payment advices posted. And what we've done is we've now made this match to our customer account, the 1710001. So on any one of these amounts now, we'll now see we've actually now taken these from unprocessed to payment on account. And I've done that association in the background, just in the file, just to make sure that it does land. But this is really what you would expect. And if I double click on one of those documents, you'll now see that we've now got a debit to the unapplied cash, and it's now actually landed on our customer account on the 1710001. So we've taken it from unapplied to customer, but right now it's still not matched to any invoice, but at least we've taken it from AR unapplied and at least got it to the payments on account mode. So this would be one of your first steps. And you'll see that if I just do a sort and filter here and subtotal it, you'll see that we had 7,600 in unapplied cash, and that's broken down to a number of separate checks on the customer account. So that's really what this posting step was doing, and we used the post processing here to take things from the original bank statement. We imported the file, we managed to get it to unapplied AR and get it in the lockbox, but the system didn't know what account it was. I did a bit of editing in the background on the file just to make sure that the file knew what customer account was, so we could then go reprocess and post. And instead of using the separate transaction, I just used post processing, and then now the amounts have landed on the account, which is a more realistic scenario that you would be encountering. So let's summarize that again. The important post was the first step. In this case, it was unapplied to customer, so it landed on AR unapplied and was a debit to lockbox because our test file didn't have any customer information in it. Then by me messing with the file in the background, because it's a test file, to associate a customer number, I was able to post process again, and then the system could automatically, when I just clicked that checks and post transaction, was then able to move it from the unapplied to the customer account. And we'll now take a subsequent lesson where we'll see how to actually then match those to invoices. So that's just the basic outline of importing a file and doing some post-processing if you're not getting any automated matches. But a high automated match rate is what the goal is for this process for your company. So this would be exception processing that I'm just showing. So you will recall from the previous lesson that when we imported the Lockbox file and then got it to post, initially unapplied AR, then we actually got the amounts posted and applied to our customer number, the 1710001 customer. The although the payments are posted and they were now on account with a customer, they weren't actually matching any invoices. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use this manual matching process, the F-32 that you learned about in an earlier lesson, to be able to do that matching. So as we discussed, the file's been imported and the payments cannot be auto-matched. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the manual matching process. We're going to find a single open invoice for $6,000 and we're going to match it with 4 payments, i.e. 4 separate checks that came from the bank lockbox. So let's have a look at that. So remember the account transaction for displaying line items, and then we've got the clearing transactions. Let's first look at the line items so we can see what we're trying to clear. So put in our customer account, click open items and execute. And if we look here, we'll see under the document type where we've got our various documents. We've got the the DR documents, manual invoices. We've got the RVs, automated invoices, and then you'll see we've got what we've then created, all these DZs. These are all the payments that came from the lockbox. I'll just highlight those. So this is everything that automatically got posted from the lockbox to the customer account from the previous lesson. So they're all showing as open items because they haven't been matched to individual invoices. If I double click on one of those payments and just go to the overview, you'll see here where we've got the AR unapplied checks and the customer account. So that's really where we're sitting at the moment. So that's just to give you an idea of what we're looking at, where because there wasn't a match, but the payments are sitting on the account. So let's now have a look at how we can then now actually clear and match those using F-32. It's a fairly simple procedure. Just select the customer number, click Process Open Items. And now as we scroll down here, remember this shows what's in the open item list. Let's find some of those DZ documents which we know were the payments. And what we're going to do is we can double click on each one we want to select. So here we've selected 1200. Now we've got 1400. Let's just keep adding on. Select 4 invoices for a total of $6,000. So now that we've got $6,000 worth of DZs or payments, we can then find an invoice for $6,000 that we can match. So now we go down the list here. I found an invoice for $6,000, which was the DR manual invoice. So I'm just going to double click that line. So now we've assigned that to. So now the assignments are all matching, but there's a 0 balance overall. We've got the 6,000 invoice, we've got our 4 payments, and now simply click the post button to post that document. And then this will then match those open items for us. So once that processes, we'll then get a document number, and then we can then go and display the open items and then see what that looks like on the customer open item list. Because remember, when you do this, then the DZs will then become cleared and you won't keep on seeing a list of open items. So here the document is posted. So now I'm simply going to go back one to the main menu. And if I'm going to display customer line items again and enter the customer number, and I'm going to run this for open items, you'll see that a lot of those DZs have now disappeared. There are still some payments that haven't been applied yet, but the ones that we chose, the 4 of them, were cleared. To see that, if we choose all items and execute that, we'll then scroll down here into the green section or the cleared items, and we can then clearly see where the DZ documents, the 4 of them, or the 4 payments from the lockbox that we picked, have now been matched to this DR invoice or the 6,000. So all of those items now are matched and cleared. Now we can just go back to the main menu. So it's a fairly simple procedure then to do that manual matching to clean up that customer account. So that's the end of that lesson. Now, just some comments about the bank account flow. Different companies have different procedures, so it's going to be very specific to your company on how many bank accounts you have, how many clearing accounts you have, and how many final bank accounts you have. So you might have a Lockbox clearing account, a final account, and you might have processes where you're transferring amounts between bank accounts, like some kind of cash sweeping process. So we're not covering all of those variants in this lesson because it's so specific to every company, but just be aware that these variants do exist. The principles are the same though, so you need to speak to your internal treasury or AR department to find out what your specific procedures are. And again, although the Lockbox process is specific to the US and it's around check payments, the principles behind getting electronic payments from a bank statement or from a Lockbox are the same, and SAP does have transactions to support those processes. And all the matching and clearing processes are the same regardless of how the data got imported from the bank. Congratulations on completing the Accounts Receivable Bootcamp. So you've now learned how to enter different types of accounts receivable invoice in SAP, manual invoices or automated invoices from sales billing documents. You've learned how to enter manual cash receipts and match them to open items. You've also learned how to process an automated lockbox receipt in SAP, i.e. an electronic file from the bank for customer payments. You've also learned how to review and audit posted invoices and open items, and basic accounts receivable reporting of balances, line items, and the age analysis report. So for next steps, you need to practice the various methods learned so that you can get familiar and more familiar with the transactions and the techniques, and you can experiment with more complex invoices and also working with actual bank files from your company. And take the time to research within your finance or your treasury departments regarding how different bank accounts are used and the flow between the different bank accounts, and also the different file formats that you are using so you can apply your knowledge. And remember to review the appendix section, as I have a quick reference guide there of all the transactions covered in this course. So let's just check that out quickly. So in the appendix is a quick reference guide, and it's attached as a PDF, which you'll find at the end of the lesson. And this is what the PDF looks like, just so you can go and download it. We've put the transactions in for the manual or the non-sales order invoices, the automated billing from sales orders, the reporting section, manual payments and clearing, and then the lockbox processing. And I've just added a note here that for if you want to create any test lockbox sample files for yourself, there's a program here you can use with SE38 transaction code to create that. And just remember, you can also reference this flow just to get an idea of what's actually happening between the customers making payments, the bank compiling a file, the BAI2 format, and then that importation into the system. SAP matches and automatically posts if it can find the matches, which is what you should expect. And then at the end of the day, there was this matching process, this manual matching process that we had to do in this account. So just remember to keep that flow in context for your learning. And just a quick disclaimer, thanks very much for taking the course.